YouTube, it's Richard with Through the Haze Survival. Today I'm out here in the woods, kind of, what we have for woods anyway. Going to try to make a natural material shelter, just using what I find, and then probably using 550 cord as the cordage. But we'll see what we can find out here. Again, we don't have a lot of woods growing up. We've got cottonwood in the creek bed like we are here, but really there's not a lot of materials here in the West Texas desert. So we'll see what we can come up with. Hopefully I can make it interesting, and it'll be something that you enjoy. So stick around. Which is really good for building traps and all kinds of other stuff. It grows typically pretty straight anywhere where there's possibly water underneath the dirt, and it doesn't really grow all that thick either, but you can use it for bird traps and stuff. So has these long willow leaves, and then the bark on it, I don't know how well you can see it, is vertical. So, just something to keep in mind. I'll probably do some stuff with it later on. Not today, but in a future video. So. It's some critter's hole. Right here is how you can tell how high the creek might come up and why you don't want to build a shelter in a creek bed. You can see where all of this debris has been pushed up against this tree by the rushing waters. And you know it's not just like a pack rat nest or something like that, because on anything that's standing, even the small stuff, you can see the dirt and debris that's built up around the trees that are growing in here. So just something to keep in mind. Don't build in a creek bed. We don't get that much rain, but when we do, it can come off the mountains and fill up this creek bed, and I mean it'll really only stick around for a little while, but if you're sleeping or your shelter's down here, then all that time and energy is wasted because it got washed away, or it's unusable because the creek bed is full of water or mud. So that, and there is some water under the surface usually, and the animals will come around, especially the feral hogs will come around and root around for it, and you don't want those too close to your camp while you're sleeping at night. So this big tree right here might look nice to set up under, but the whole thing is basically a widowmaker, dead, so a strong wind could knock down large branches on top of you. And there's a few things that you need to be mindful of whenever you're making a shelter. It's wind. What direction is the wind coming in? Is it going to come right in your front door and blow on you all night? Widowmakers, stuff like this that's going to fall down and could possibly kill you while you're sleeping or even while you're building your shelter. Location to water, or how close you are to water, because you don't want to be having to go too far from your water source, but you don't want to be too close because it could rise. And anywhere where there's water, there's going to be animals coming and going. And then wriggling things, stuff like snakes and spiders and anything else. You don't want to make your shelter that is already a home to something else if you can help it. That's why it's best to, when you do build your shelter, double check the area, look for holes in the ground, holes in the tree, wherever something might come crawling out at night that's nocturnal, that might go tearing through your camp or bite you or cause you discomfort in the middle of the night. So just things to be mindful of. Like I said, it'd be a nice tree if it was all green and spread out, but the whole thing is pretty much dead. So right here you can see that there's been wildlife in the area. The bark's been rubbed off or chewed off of this lower part of the tree. With it being so low, I'm guessing it's probably feral hog. Typically deer will go up quite a bit higher. But just whenever you're walking around, look for animal sign, whether it's droppings or footprints or stuff like this. It's something to keep mindful to where the animal traffic is in your area for setting up traps and for building your shelter. So right here we have an example of one of the beautiful huge cottonwood trees that's growing out here, but it's right in the creek bed, so I couldn't use it for anything except for maybe gathering stuff off of it, dead branches and stuff. But it is massive, and one of the only trees that gets this big really out here at all. Now there used to be a lot more cottonwood trees in the area of West Texas for a long time, but down in Terlingua Ranch, which is a community, or Terlingua rather, which is a community south in the south Big Bend area, it used to be really big into mercury mining. So in order to process mercury, you need a hot fire and fuel. So from what I was told, all of the cottonwoods that used to be around have been chopped down because they needed the fuel for the mercury mining. Really, there's only a few places in the area that you can find really big cottonwood trees. You can see some small ones. That one's pretty decent size, but a lot of them were chopped down. And over here, here's some animal sign. Droppings. It doesn't look like deer, but there's a lot of stuff that run around out here. Again, just keep your eyes open. You really need to learn, not just with survival, but just life in general. Pay attention to detail. Pay attention to every little thing in your environment and everything around you, because it could save your life. You know, you walk out your front door and you see the same thing every day, but one day it's changed. You know, one day there's a car there that you don't know, and that could be someone who's coming to do you harm or something. Same thing, you're sitting on a bench, maybe waiting for the bus or waiting for the subway train, and there's someone milling about close to you, kind of keeping an eye on you. A lot of times these people are sizing you up to see how good of a target you might be to take advantage of. So just always pay attention to detail. Here's a road going through the creek bed. We'll follow it for a little bit. See if I find a nice flat area with stuff that I can use. So this right here looks like a pretty good area. It's between two living trees. Got a couple dead branches, but nothing up high that's going to fall down. What I might do is put something in between. I've got kind of a wedge right here and a wedge over there. If I can get a straight piece long enough, then I can do like a lean-to right here. Behind me there's kind of a slope to a hill, so it's a little bit of a windbreak, and there's some brush and stuff. You might be able to hear the highway, because like I said, there's not a lot of places where I can go out here where I can be completely away from people and have materials to build and stuff like that. There's one place that I have recently gotten permission at where I might build a more permanent shelter, but we'll see how that shapes up. So let's drop our pack, and we'll clear some of this away and see if we can't find something to... So I've got my saw and my garden shears out here. Should make quick work of cleaning out some of the smaller stuff. Go around and clip down every little piece, just what might be immediately in my way, and anything that's dead right here that might come down and ruin whatever I build. Most of this is pretty alive. You got the ends like this that are a little brittle, but the rest of this is pretty springy. That's how you can tell if it springs back and it doesn't immediately snap off in your hand. But let's see if we can find a long straight piece to come across and use as our backing for our lean-to. Got my piece, and let's see if we can make it work right here in this space. So that'll have to do for now. I may need to find a Y stick to support the middle, because there's not a lot. Maybe I'll just do a wedge. I can't do the lean-to. I think that's what we'll try out. The materials are limited, as I've said, and basically you need to build a shelter that you're able to build. Now, I'd like to build a lean-to, but I think the wedge or A-frame will do better over here. So let's go with that instead. So when you're laying the ribbing across, you kind of want the limbs to overlap, like all these small limbs. That way it'll hold any debris or anything else that you throw on top of it. So I've got some stuff that I cut off of this one that I'm going to use, and there's plenty of other stuff around that I can use to make my walls. So the skeleton is mostly done. You got to think of it as like the 2x4s on a house. You need a frame to attach all of your exterior walls to. So it looks like a ramshackle, but it needs to be able to hold up several layers of whatever I'm going to collect. I don't know if I'm going to use cedar boughs or the tall grass that we've got. I don't want to use some of this grass because it's full of thorns and stuff, and I don't want, if I were to sleep in here, I wouldn't want all that stuff falling down on top of me while I'm sleeping. But make sure you leave yourself a door so you can get in and out, and be mindful of where the door is at too. You don't want the door facing where the wind is. The wind is kind of coming in across like this, so if I were to sleep in here, it should be okay. I'm wearing gloves because, as most everything out here, the mesquite bushes have thorns on them, and I don't want to get my hands all tore up from those. So let's see if we can find some material to put on the outside and make this look more like a shelter and less like a pile of sticks. So I started with a bunch of dry grass. It's pretty readily available, and we just keep piling it up, building it up. You want to basically build it from the bottom up, so that way the layers are overlapped as they go up, so it'll shed water more easily. That's one of the reasons I got underneath a tree. If the tree was in bloom, it kind of protect us from the water, the rain a bit more, but you want your shelter to be rainproof as well. So it's going to take quite a bit of grass, and we'll see how long the family wants to stay out here. It may be this video may be cut short before I'm able to finish this shelter. We'll see. So let's keep building it up and see how far I can go. So the family's hollering at me. It's time to leave. So we'll have to continue building a shelter later on. I'm not going to leave this here. I'm going to take it all down, leave no trace. But you can see just a bunch of clumps of grass. Keep piling them up, piling them up. What you want to do is you want to pile them up so thick that if you look from inside out, you should see no light coming through. Because if light can come through, then water can come through. I was just using my silky saw, grabbing the tops of the grass bundles and cutting down low. It seems to work better than a knife, and I was able to get some pretty big chunks. And you just do the same on both sides. There's different things you can do for the top to prevent water from coming in. You can just keep piling stuff on until you just have a big mound of material, or you can take the bundles and put them upright and start to kind of interweave them together over the top and create more of a watershed. But don't just build up the sides, you need to build up the top too, because if not, then you'll be fine on the side, but you'll have water just coming straight down on you. I've stayed in one of these shelters before in the Scouts. It was pretty warm. It was in March or April, so it was still chilly up in Illinois. And I mean, I stayed pretty warm. Had a mouse jumping around on me in the middle of the night, but I mean, you're outside, so not much else you can expect from that. But like I said, I'm going to take all this down. I'm going to leave no trace, and we'll see. Like I said, I have recently gotten permission to go on to private property to basically 1,000 acres where I'm able to do different things. So hopefully I can go on there and build a more permanent shelter, and it'll be featured in many, many videos to come. I have many more videos planned. We're going to go over all kinds of stuff. But thank you for joining me. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. It really helps me move up. I'm not doing this channel to make money. I just really enjoy making the videos. I have a real passion for nature and being outside. And it's fun to teach you guys. It's fun to join you guys every week as I can to make these videos and just show you what you can do. Go out and try it. If you have the space and the ability to, go out and try it. We're going to look at a few different shelter types. We'll just go from there. So, come on, join me outside. Like I said, I'm going to clean this up. I'll show some of that at the end of the video. But, let's go. So you just want to spread all your stuff that you cut, the dead stuff, the grass. Spread it around so it's like no one was here.